So really I have specific preparation actually. And I think it's really better if I speak in bahasa ya. And I'm sure that most of the participants in this international conference much better in bahasa than in English. Ya, oleh karena itu ya saya jujur tadi malam saya diminta Pak Dirjen harus hadir. Makanya ketika panitia meminta saya materi, ya tidak ada materi, tapi saya harus hadir karena saya menghargai undangan ini sebagai sebagai anak buah dari Pak Dirjen harus melaksanakan tugas. Gitu. Baik, Bapak dan Ibu yang saya hormati, Bu Ketua Stain Tengku Derindeng, ya Melaboh, juga para pejabat yang lainnya yang saya tidak sempat sebut satu persatu, para narasumber. Dalam kesempatan ini saya tentu sangat mengapresiasi kegiatan penting ini, and it is the first international conference on Islamic Studies ya di Stain Melaboh ini. Dan saya kira ini menjadi satu tradisi yang sangat bagus, Bu Ketua. Jadi ke depan mudah-mudahan Stain Melaboh ini bisa cepat bertransformasi, bukan lagi Stain tapi menjadi IAIN, setelah IAIN menjadi UIN, kan itu jadi perkembangannya bisa menyusul perguruan tinggi Islam lainnya ya untuk memperoleh wider mandat dalam sisi keilmuan ya, sehingga peluang untuk tadi melakukan integrasi ataupun interdisiplin ilmu itu semakin luas ya ketimbang payung atau rumah dalam bentuk Stain. Saya tentu sangat mengapresiasi ini dan saya kira memang kita tahu bahwa tantangan mohon izin Bu Ketua, saya mungkin dibalik ya, saya ngomong dulu baru membuka karena kalaupun membuka dulu saya ngomongnya gitu-gitu aja nanti jangan terlalu ini. Jadi saya nyampaikan dulu, kemudian saya buka dan saya langsung wassalam gitu. Jadi saya kira ini konteks untuk mengaktualisasi atau mereformulasi, merevitalisasi terkait dengan TURATS ya, yang menjadi khasanah kekayaan umat Islam ini menjadi sangat penting, apalagi pada era yang sangat penuh tantangan ya. Yang era disrupsi ini yang perlu gangguan penuh dengan berbagai macam tantangan, saya kira ini perlu dilakukan. Dan kita tahu bahwa sebenarnya pertentangan dari dulu, sewaktu saya menjadi dosen UIN Bandung juga sudah terasa bahwa semacam dunia dan keilmuan atau dunia ilmu juga itu terbagi dua. Kenyataannya dikotomi itu memang ada ya. Jadi ilmu-ilmu milik Islam kemudian ilmu-ilmu milik Barat itu ada. Dan memang dari sejarah ilmu itu kan kita tahu ada yang disebut dengan fides quaerens intellectus. Fides quaerens intellectus itu ya hati mendahului intelek, rasa mendahului pikiran. Nah, saya kira ini memang lebih dulu dan ini kemudian berkembanglah khazanah ilmu pengetahuan yang dihasilkan oleh para ulama-ulama terdahulu yang kemudian memang akarnya adalah penanaman terhadap kepatuhan kita terhadap kholik. Jadi aspek keimanan menjadi sangat utama. Sisi lain kemudian ada yang disebut di dunia barat itu setelah ilmu-ilmu itu berkembang itu ya yang disebut dengan dalam sejarah keilmuan itu yang disebut dengan intellectus quaerens fides. Intellectus quaerens fides itu ya intelek yang mendahului pada rasa. Jadi inilah yang menghasilkan ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi. Dan ini kemudian menjadi tugas yang sangat besar bagi kita. Kenapa? Karena memang dua karakteristik ilmu itu beda. Kalau tadi yang intellectus quaerens fides itu yang mengutamakan intelek menghasilkan pengetahuan, ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi yang memfasilitasi manusia itu adalah sesuatu yang dihasilkan dari cara pikir ya objektivitas. Ya, objektivitas. Sebaliknya, apa yang dikatakan sebagai tadi fides quaerens intellectus itu, yang rasa mendahului pikiran itu cenderung itu subjektivitas. Ya, kalau sains itu objektif, tapi kalau agama itu bisa lebih subjektif. Sains itu lebih ilmiah, tapi agama itu lebih irfaniah. Sains itu lebih rasional, tapi agama irasional. Sains itu objektif, sains itu apa istilahnya itu? Ya, sains itu objektif, tapi juga agama itu mistis kadang. Jadi wilayah-wilayah itu adalah dua hal yang menurut saya berbeda, dan tugas kita ketika kita berbicara ilmu kontemporer dan ilmu agama ya, ini menjadi tidak gampang. Tapi saya selalu berpikir sesungguhnya apa yang harus kita integrasikan, yang harus kita pikirkan sebagai upaya untuk mengaktualisasi ilmu agama terhadap ilmu-ilmu kontemporer, nyambungnya di mana? Sesungguhnya pada meaning of values. Saya melihat itu makna dari nilainya. Jadi makna dari nilainya. Nah, makna dari nilai ini ya tentu untuk kita sebagai orang akademisi yang ada di perguruan tinggi Islam, tentu yang pertama adalah nilai teologis. Nilai ketuhanan adalah nilai yang pertama yang harus ditanamkan pada setiap apapun yang kita pikirkan, kita rasakan, dan kita lakukan. Itu nilai teologis. Yang kedua adalah nilai logis. Nilai logis saya kira inilah yang di perguruan tinggi atau mungkin di forum-forum konferensi atau seminar itu nilai logis itu adalah nilai yang paling tampak. Kenapa paling tampak? Karena ini indikatornya itu terukur. Ini bisa dites, bisa dibuktikan sampai dalam bentuk jurnal. Mau profesor, jurnalnya harus akreditasi, bahkan harus terindeks Scopus dan lain sebagainya. Jadi ini adalah ukuran-ukuran intelektual yang merupakan value, nilai yang kadar kebenarannya itu benar salah. Jadi ketika kita berbicara bagaimana mengintegrasikan ilmu, merevitalisasi tentang ilmu Islam dan kontemporer, ada dalam konteks benar salah. Yang paling unggul soal benar salah itu adalah ilmu yang dihasilkan di dunia barat. Karena mereka empirik, objektif, ilmiah, itu adalah kadar yang dihasilkan oleh ilmu-ilmu barat. Nah ini, dan dengan demikian pengolahan intelektualitas dalam konteks penguatan nilai logik, lebih banyak kita merujuk pada rujukan-rujukan buku barat. Saya dulu pernah ketika saya masih ngajar di UIN Bandung, membimbing tesis misalkan, banyak teman-teman yang mengkaji ilmu pendidikan Islam itu mengkaji pemikiran-pemikiran ulama terdahulu. Misalkan Al-Farabi, kemudian Al-Ghazali tentang pendidikan, bagaimana pendidikan ini diimplementasikan. Nah, saya seringkali menarik bukan mengkaji kajian itu tok gitu. Tapi setelah ketemu format konstruk dari pemikiran ulama itu, coba ditarik pada dunia realitas, apakah dalam bentuk pembentukan model pendidikan menurut konstruk yang diwujudkan atau yang tercipta dari pemikiran ulama itu, ya, atau mengukur setidaknya realitas dari pemikiran itu ada di masyarakat enggak. Nah, kalau kita sudah bikin mengukur, itu sudah masuk ke wilayah ilmiah, maka di sana sesungguhnya kita sudah masuk pada kaidah benar salah, ya. Bukan baik buruk, kaidah benar salah. Nah, di sini akan sangat membantu sesungguhnya. Jadi ketika kita tetap menggunakan metodologi pendekatan yang dari barat untuk ini, walaupun tidak akan bisa mengukur semuanya, ini cukup membantu menurut saya. Jadi artinya rekan-rekan di satu sisi memiliki keyakinan yang sifatnya mistis, tapi sisi lain pemikiran logiknya itu harus kuat. Jadi harus terpadu dua-duanya. Nah ini maksud saya, value itu value dalam konteks benar salah yang perlu TURATS itu juga harus dikaitkan dengan konteks penguatan intelektual, cara berpikir logis yang kadarnya itu benar salah. Yang kedua, value yang menjadi core dari persoalan rekonstruksi atau integrasi pengetahuan atau ilmu pengetahuan dengan konten dalam TURATS itu juga terkait dengan nilai etika. Nah, nilai etika ini lebih banyak pada yang saya katakan tadi fides quaerin intellectus. Jadi ilmu-ilmu yang dihasilkan berdasarkan pertimbangan-pertimbangan rasa, keimanan, ketakwaan dan sebagainya. Nah, ini baik buruk. Nah, kadar baik buruk itu ya bisa bersumber dari norma, agama atau budaya ya. Jadi ragam sumbernya macam-macam sebenarnya. Nah, tapi yang paling penting bahwa ini timbangan lain pada upaya penemuan ilmu-ilmu agama, penyatuan ilmu-ilmu agama dengan dengan realitas kehidupan atau ilmu-ilmu agama dengan perkembangan yang kontemporer ini. Dan yang keempat itu terkait juga dengan value estetik. Estetik itu adalah nilai yang terkait dengan keindahan. Saya kira ini penting sekali. Kalau misalkan Bu Ketua ini mau membuat kampus, ya estetikanya harus bagus. Jangan anggarannya besar, tapi kemudian wujudnya tidak menarik untuk dilihat. Ya, nilai estetika. Dan estetika saya kira keindahan dalam bahasa agama bukan semata-mata keindahan fisik. Betapa indahnya seorang sufi itu menyelami kedalaman batinnya. Oh, indah juga itu. Jadi itu wilayah lain sebenarnya pada dunia batiniah orang yang memiliki keagamaan yang kuat. Saya kira memang estetika ini menjadi sangat penting. Jadi setidaknya bagi saya itu 4 nilai itu menjadi penting ketika kita bagaimana merevitalisasi atau merekonstruksi nilai-nilai yang terkandung dalam TURATS sebagai hasanah pengetahuan ya kita orang ya Islam dengan perkembangan sekarang yang penuh tantangan dengan teknologi yang demikian canggih ya sehingga membawa kita ke kehidupan maya ya dengan 4.0 sekarang itu ya generasi 4.0. Jadi ini dan yang paling penting bagi saya, tidak semata-mata kita memikirkan sesuatu untuk diintegrasikan. Tapi yang paling harus dirasakan dalam konteks memperbaiki cara pandang, sikap, perilaku adalah bagaimana kita memberikan pelayanan terhadap orang lain dalam konteks pendidikan itu. Nah, pendidikan di perguruan tinggi ya misalnya Stein Melabo itu bisa maju kalau kultur akademik dan pelayanan akademiknya lebih baik gitu. Jadi kalau saya ingin melihat sebenarnya apa yang dipikirkan itu dilakukan. Apa yang diyakini itu suatu keharusan itu dilakukan. Jangan sampai berlaku sebaliknya. Maksud saya begini. Saya pernah melihat suatu fenomena yang bagi saya itu menjadi bukan ganjil tapi nyeleneh gitu ya. Kenapa? Pada suatu waktu saya bisa melihat saya sholat zuhur itu di masjid perguruan tinggi umum. Itu shop yang terisinya itu lebih dari 4 shop. Masjidnya hampir sama gedenya. Tapi kemudian saya sholat di masjid di perguruan tinggi Islam. Itu shopnya itu lebih sedikit. Yang berjamaahnya lebih sedikit gitu. Padahal dari jumlah mahasiswanya juga saya kira nggak terlalu jauh yang sedang kuliah pada siang hari itu. Nah, ini suatu hal yang saya temukan dalam fenomena ada apa gitu ya. Makanya bagi saya itu value itu bukan sesuatu yang dikaji secara filosofis melalui aksiologi, bukan. Bukan itu. Value itu adalah yang melekat pada perilaku, ya. Jadi selain kita berpikir melalui forum-forum ilmiah, melakukan pengkajian secara intelektual, tapi juga ada sesuatu yang harus berwujud dari pribadi-pribadi kita, yang itu membangun sebuah kultur yang sangat kondusif dan islami di sebuah kampus. Itu menurut saya itu lebih penting karena itu menjadi sesuatu yang langsung tampak dan dirasakan oleh para mahasiswa. Nah ini, jadi kalau saya bicara nilai karena memang kebetulan saya doktor dalam pendidikan nilai dulu. Jadi itu kajian saya sebenarnya. Nah makanya saya melihat bahwa apapun yang didiskusikan oleh Bapak Ibu pada akhirnya akan sampai pada nilai itu, diikat oleh 4 nilai itu nantinya itu. Apapun diskurs yang diinikan, pasti pengikatnya itu pada value-nya itu, ya. Selamat untuk berkonferensi internasional. Mudah-mudahan ini bisa mencerahkan para peserta dan memberikan jalan terang ya untuk perguruan tinggi keagamaan Islam khususnya ya, PTKI, baik itu STAIN, IAIN, UIN ya, untuk semakin menemukan format yang paling tepat dalam menghadapi dunia yang penuh disrupsi ini ya. Mudah-mudahan lancar semuanya dan mohon maaf saya mungkin tidak panjang untuk menyampaikan speech. Mungkin ini bukan keynote speech, hanya speech saja ya. Jadi untuk menyampaikan ini dan tentu saya mewakili Pak Dirjen menyampaikan salam kepada Bapak Ibu, Bu Ketua dan para panitia serta para narasumber. Tadi saya sudah mendengar Pak Arskal, Pak Oman semuanya dan dari luar negeri. Saya kira ini sebuah konferensi internasional yang sangat menarik bagi saya. Baik, dengan mengharap ridho Allah Subhanahu wa taala, seraya membaca Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, maka acara the first International Conference on Islamic Studies di Stein Tengku Derundeng Melaboh secara resmi saya buka. Demikian, terima kasih. Wallahul muwaffiq ila aqwamit thoriq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Bapak Dr. Haji Rohmat Mulyana Sabdi, MPD, for the insightful speech and the opening of First Teachers Conference. Now we would like to invite Mr. Fadlur Rahman Armi, MA, to lead prayer recitation.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin hamdan syakirina hamdan na'imina hamdan yuwafi ni'amahu wa yukafi'u mazidah. Ya Rabbana lakal hamdu kama yanbaghi li jalali wajhika al-karim wa 'azimi sultanik. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت وسلمت وباركت على سيدنا إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. ربنا تقبل منا صلاتنا وصيامنا وركوعنا وسجودنا وقعودنا وتضبعنا وتخشعنا وتمم تقصيرنا يا الله يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا نسألك سلامة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة وعافية في الجسد وزيادة في العلم وبركة في الرزق وتوبة قبل الموت ورحمة عند الموت ومغفرة بعد الموت. اللهم هون علينا في سكرات الموت والنجاة من النار والعفو عند الحساب. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Waalaikumsalam.
Excellency, distinguished guest participants, ladies and gentlemen, we have the all agenda of the opening ceremony, and in the very short moments, we would like to start our plenary session led by our moderator today, Mr. Fadlur Rahman Armi, MA. For your information, our first keynote speaker is Amanda Dosit from Paris, and our second keynote speaker is Professor Dr. Muhammad Arskal Salim from Ministry of Religious Affairs. But before we moving to end the session, let us take some picture together. So please turn on your video, and I will count 2, 3. Okay. House ready? All right. Please turn on your video, and I will count until 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, once again, 1, 2, 3. Okay, done. Thank you very much for all participants. And this is our end session of our opening ceremony. Thank you very much again for attending the virtual opening ceremony of the first European International Conference on Islamic Studies 2020. And last I say you, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Ms. Faizatul Husna. And now I'm selected as the person in charge. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Allahumma shalli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammadin sayyidil awwalin wal akhirin. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first Duranding International Islamic Conference 2020. It is a great pleasure to have you with us. First, my name is Fadlur Rahman Armi, and I will be the moderator for this session. I'm joined by my colleagues behind the scene, Ms. Tuti Hidayati, who will be serving as co-moderator, host, and co-host to organize this virtual room and to help answer your question and respond to your comments during the session. Today, we'll be hearing from great experts who will present various issues related to the theme of the conference, which is TURATS, Reconstruction of Knowledge and Islamic Studies in the Disruption Era. I, as your moderator, will collect all the questions. So we really hope to hear from you. Please share your question, idea, and thought for each speaker in the comment section by writing the name of the speakers and the question you are asking. We'll address the question at the end in Q&A session. Without further ado, let me introduce the first speaker. She is the Amanda Dosit. She has a lot of academic record, academic vita. I'll introduce you that the first Magister in Islamic Studies, Indonesian Studies and Political Science in University of Hamburg. The thesis is about Saudi Arabian socialization in Indonesia, the Lembaga Ilmu Pengetahuan Islam dan Arabiak in Jakarta as transnational education space, and also her PhD in political science, magna cum laude, in Philip University Marburg, Her thesis is about Islamic University as actors in democratization process, a comparative historical analysis in EIN or UIN, Jakarta, and Zaytuna University, Tunis. So she is very, very connected to Indonesia. And also, her current business address is in Centre Asie du Sud et France, from Paris. Okay, without further ado, please welcome our speaker, but I will check the speaker. Miss Amanda, are you here with us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, it's good, Amanda. How are you today? I hope you're very well.
It's very early in the morning. I'm in Germany. It's 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my
I haven't slept much, but I'm very excited about this conference. So thank you very much for the invitation.
We hope we do not disturb your time.
No, it's fine.
So the time is yours. It is your choice to serve or to deliver in Indonesia in Bahasa and in English, but not in French.
No. No.
Okay, please, Amanda, the time is yours.
Ya, thank you. Selamat pagi semuanya. Terima kasih banyak atas undangan ini. Saya merasa sangat terhormat bahwa Anda sekalian tertarik pada kontribusi saya untuk topik konferensi internasional hari ini tentang TURATS, Reconstruction of Knowledge and Islamic Studies in Disruption Era. Saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada ibu-ibu dan bapak-bapak Stein Toinku di Rundeng Moilabo, dan saya sangat berharap bahwa satu hari kita bisa bertemu langsung di Aceh. So thank you very much for the invitation to this interesting conference. I always love to exchange with colleagues on issues of Islamic knowledge and education in the Indonesian context, and I am very happy to share some time with you here today. The title of my talk is Islamic Manuscript Preservation and its Political Contextualization in Indonesia. Let me first remark that I am not a specialist of Islamic manuscripts. I am trained in political science with a focus on Islam, and I am mostly curious about the politics of Islamic education in Indonesia. I am fascinated by the Indonesian state Islamic higher education system and the religious, cultural, social, and political functions it has fulfilled in the past, and I try to understand whether and how it nowadays contributes to Indonesian democracy. In my research, I have come to the conclusion that the relationship between state-sponsored Indonesian Islamic intellectualism and the world of Indonesian national as well as international politics is and always has been strong. That is why in my talk today, I would like to contextualize the current trend of academic rediscovering of Indonesian Islamic heritage through manuscript preservation within its broader political setting, its meaning and function. A basic question to ask here is, what does the current interest in Indonesian Islamic manuscripts may tell us about potential future directions of Islamic knowledge production in Indonesia? Also, as educational trends are always mirrors of wider societal and political developments, what do state-initiated manuscript preservation projects tell us about Indonesian identity politics? I will not be able to present closed answers to these questions today, but I will discuss several aspects I find worth mentioning in approaching these questions. Also, please let me remind you that as a non-Indonesian and non-Muslim, what I will present in the following is an external foreigner's perspective on the issue. I do not perceive myself as an expert on Indonesia, but I am and always will be a student of Indonesia, a student of its religions, its society, its history, and its politics. Therefore, I do not claim that my speech presents any truth or perfection, but I consider my thoughts as a stimulus and invitation for further reflection. Let me begin by telling you that as an alumni of the Northern German University of Hamburg, I am well aware of the collaborative project on manuscript preservation that this university is maintaining with UIN Jakarta, and particularly with the Pusat Pengkajian Islam dan Masyarakat, the PPIM, at the UIN Jakarta campus. The University of Hamburg houses a center for the study on manuscript cultures, which enabled the opportunity to bring to life in the year 2017 with PPIM Jakarta.
Assalamualaikum. Enggak, Agus, ada enggak foto-foto kita pas di MAN? Pas di MAN.
I have some sounds.
Iris nah.
Please tolong di mute peserta. Tolong host dibantu di mute. Yes,
Sudah?
Yes,
Okay.
Amanda, please continue.
So the University of Hamburg in Germany houses a center for the study on manuscript cultures, which enabled the opportunity to bring to life in the year 2017 with PPIM Jakarta a unique project called DreamSeya, which is an abbreviation for Digital Repository of Endangered and Affected Manuscripts in Southeast Asia. I believe that most of you are familiar with this project. The project's goal is to digitize manuscripts and thereby to safeguard cultural diversity in Southeast Asia. Many Southeast Asian manuscripts are simply unknown to academics and to the wider public because they are individually owned and kept at individuals' houses. In addition, due to the humid climate of Southeast Asia, many manuscripts are in a poor condition and their future existence is threatened. Hence, DreamSeya researchers flock out into cities and remote areas to convince individual manuscript owners to let the manuscripts be digitized through the simple technique of digital photography. While the original documents stay with the owners, the digitized versions are fully openly accessible online in high resolution and accompanied by metadata and partial translations into Indonesian and English. In Indonesia, the DreamSeya project has rescued and made publicly available hundreds of manuscripts, many of them Islamic manuscripts, composed in a Javi script and bearing proof of the archipelago's rich local Islamic history and culture. Translation, contextualization, and understanding of these Islamic manuscripts has only begun, and Indonesian as well as international partners like Masyarakat Pernaskahan Nusantara, the Jakarta National Library, and the Hill Museum and Manuscript Library in Minnesota, USA, have joined the project. I hope it doesn't sound too romantic when I share with you that this collaborative project that brings together researchers from different nations, cultures, and religions in a joint mission to discover, preserve, translate, and revitalize the meaning of long-forgotten manuscripts intuitively reminds me of scientific occupation in the 8th to 13th century in places like Baghdad, Persia, or Al-Andalus. During that time and in these places, the driving motors of scientific and civilizational progress were the rediscovery, revitalization, recontextualization, and further development of the content of ancient manuscripts from Greek antiquity. The central role that ancient Greek scrolls played for civilizational progress in the Islamic Arab-Persian culture and later in Christian Europe exemplifies what potential transformative power lies in old manuscripts and in old knowledge. The collaborative multinational nature of the DreamSeya project makes me also think of the Toledo School of Translators in Al-Andalus, where in the 12th to 13th century, Muslims, Jews, and Christians together translated Greek and Arab thought from Arabic into the Castilian and Latin language, thereby making the sophisticated Greco-Arab intellectualism accessible for Christian Europe. We can therefore conclude that it were rediscovered ancient manuscripts that transmitted precious knowledge, which was then of key relevance for the scientific and civilizational direction Arab and European societies took. In Europe particularly, these manuscripts and the further development and adaptation of their content to contemporary contexts and challenges by Arab intellectuals triggered the European Renaissance and its deeply entrenched awareness of the value of knowledge preservation. I think that what we can learn from these historical examples is that old knowledge isn't necessarily outdated, but when we consider it as a flexible base for further development, it can in fact stimulate progress and fruitfully contribute to societal identity formation. However, the international collaboration that underlines the Islamic manuscript preservation in Indonesia can also be seen from a more critical lens. And I would like to refer here to an interesting book that just came out this year with Isaiah's Publishing in Singapore. It's entitled Heritage as Aid and Diplomacy in Asia. In their introduction, Wang and his co-authors make the case that today's international heritage cooperation is a form of colonial legacy that reproduces power asymmetries. The authors claim that through Western-funded and Western-supervised heritage aid, Western states exert soft power and that they produce normative knowledge on heritage. In these international cooperations on heritage conservation, it is often the Western partners who define the universal value of heritage, as well as a global hierarchy of cultural heritage. In other words, it is often them who define and select what is worth preserving and what is not. And therefore, a great deal of heritage is socially and politically constructed. I think that this critical perspective on heritage conservation invites us to situate the current trend in Indonesia of preserving and rediscovering the content of local Islamic manuscripts in its broader political context, and to inquire what it tells us about Islamic academia and national identity politics in Indonesia. I would like to argue that the mere fact that Indonesia is pushing forward Islamic manuscript preservation indicates a break with past Islamic academic practices, Islamic knowledge creation, Islamic identity formation, and the overall understanding of progress and modernity. We can discern today a shift towards greater self-esteem of Indonesian state Islamic academia to turn to the own local Islamic knowledge and customs and to value them as a source of a modern national Islamic identity. Let us recall that under Suharto, national and Islamic identity politics were closely coupled to the ideology of Pembangunan Nasional, which was oriented towards Western modernity and a modernist interpretation of Islam, and which in official representations marginalized more locally inspired, village-based ideas of Islamic identity formation. National progress was understood as a forward-looking agenda that left little room for engagement with the ancient local Islamic past. Quite the contrary, a look backwards was rather perceived as impeding the development of the nation and its competitiveness in the global political and economic system. The attitude of the Suharto regime and rather neglecting the local Islamic heritage also had repercussions on the orientation of Indonesian Islamic knowledge production, Islamic science, Islamic intellectualism, and the Islamic higher education system as a whole. Under Suharto, Indonesian Islamic academics were often sent abroad to Egypt, Canada, or the United States to study their religion and to import modern foreign understandings of Islam. These countries were considered as sources of Islamic knowledge Indonesia depended upon. This flow of Islamic knowledge from the outside into Indonesia reproduced existing power relations and asymmetries and reaffirmed Indonesia's alleged status as a passive Islamic periphery. It seems that this rigid understanding of Indonesia as a mere consumer of foreign conceptions of Islamic knowledge is currently experiencing a change. In a forthcoming article I have co-written with my French colleague Delphine Alès, we elaborate on how Indonesian Islamic academia is currently undergoing a shift from a former import and consumption of foreign epistemologies from the Arab and Western world to a greater practice of producing and exporting Indonesian Islamic knowledge to the world. Concrete examples are the export of the staff and curriculum of UIN Medan to Singapore, or the current construction of an Indonesian International Islamic University in Depok. I suppose that the currently booming engagement of Indonesia with its ancient Islamic manuscripts may also play a key role in this process in the future. In this context, it seems that the current focus on local Islamic manuscripts has the potential to serve two functions. First, it nurtures Indonesian self-perception as a nation home to a distinct and rich local Islamic history and culture, and thus serves domestic internal nation building, which welcomes local cultural diversity and a local Islam Nusantara. Secondly, it opens up a window of opportunity to expose the local Islamic history and culture to the world. In our article, my colleague and I discuss how references to a local Indonesian Islamic tradition underpin Indonesia's diplomatic and soft power aspirations within the wider Muslim world, particularly since the 9/11 Islamist attacks and against the backdrop of a more visible Islamist movement worldwide and a worldwide rising Islamophobia, Indonesia has discovered its mostly peaceful local Islamic culture and history as an asset and source for furthering its attractiveness within the Muslim and non-Muslim world. In this global context, Indonesia is currently seeking to maneuver itself out of its alleged status as an Islamic periphery and aims to transform itself into a new center of Islamic knowledge and authority. The role of the Indonesian Islamic higher education system and old Islamic manuscripts may take an important role in this new agenda. An illustrative example is the already mentioned new Indonesian International Islamic University that is currently being built in Depok. It will teach a course on Indonesian Islamic studies to foreign Muslim students, and its campus will house a museum that aims to exhibit and promote the Indonesian Islamic civilization that is presented as inherently peaceful and moderate. At this point in time, we can only speculate that ancient local Islamic manuscripts from the archipelago will be exhibited in this museum, and that they will be an object of study in the course on Indonesian Islamic studies. But these options seem more than logical. Thus, Islamic manuscript culture may become a central ingredient in Indonesia's new approach to Islamic science and knowledge production and in its new foreign diplomacy agenda. However, the usefulness of the manuscripts for educational, scientific, and political agendas like these will also depend on the concrete contents of the manuscripts and what we can learn from them for our contemporary life. Research on and translation of the manuscripts contents is still going on, and I would be excited to soon read a comprehensive study on the findings. Let me now switch to a historical perspective on the politics of Indonesian Islamic higher education. The observance of my French colleague and myself that currently the Indonesian state Islamic higher education system takes a central function in disseminating an official, moderate, and peaceful Indonesian Islamic culture to the greater Muslim world, and that it acts as a peace broker in the international system, is embedded within the longer political history of the Indonesian Islamic higher education system. The state Islamic higher education system indeed always has had a political function, and in the following, I would like to illustrate this point. From the beginning of their creation under Sukarno, the agency of Indonesian state institutes of Islamic higher education and their academics was not confined to the campuses, but it was meant to stretch out beyond the campus walls. The sociologist Francisco Ramirez calls higher education institutes of that profile socially embedded. They interact with wider society and try to contribute to its upgrading. Exactly this was a main task of the EINs in the context of Indonesian independence and nation building as managed by Sukarno. While the EINs most obviously functioned as a collective tank to foster alliance with Nahdlatul Ulama, as well as a counterweight against Islamist and communist opposition in the country, Sukarno ensured that the EINs would serve underprivileged communities. He initiated the concept of Tridharma Perguruan Tinggi, which includes the idea that institutes of higher education shall serve society. And he put this into practice by sending EIN students through a student service program to remote villages for community work. When Suharto came to power, he built on Sukarno's legacy by enlarging the state Islamic higher education system, and he deepened the bond between Islamic academic staff and students and the populace through, for instance, an institutionalized obligatory student service program, the Kuliah Kerja Nyata, or the Madrasah Pembangunan at the EIN Jakarta campus. Both of them exist until today. Islamic academics acted not only as brokers between different social classes in Indonesia, but also between Indonesian, Arab, and Western scholarship and societies. During Reformasi, the individual Islamic campuses and academics supported the introduction of democracy by implementing pro-democracy civic education courses and by promoting democracy in the public sphere through their strong media presence. All of these examples lead me to conclude that the state Islamic higher education system over decades has manifested itself as a key actor in Indonesian political life and in bridging conflicts, mostly at the domestic level. Against this historical backdrop, its current involvement in fostering Indonesian international diplomacy and soft power, we could also talk of Islamic science diplomacy here. It seems just like a logical next step. For researchers like me, who are interested in the politics of Indonesian education, the state Islamic higher education system and its academics will remain a relevant object of study, and I am particularly curious about what exact role Islamic manuscripts and manuscript research will play in Indonesian identity politics on the domestic as well as on the international level. In order to come to an end of my talk, I would like to remind us of some classical questions we should be aware of when observing knowledge politics. We should ask questions like, what is this knowledge for? Who produces it and who consumes it? Who has access to this knowledge and who doesn't? What interests undergird the dissemination of this knowledge? Finally, let's keep in mind that possessing knowledge means possessing power, and that therefore the one who holds knowledge holds responsibility. I am very positive that the Indonesian state Islamic higher education system and its academics are well aware of their responsibility and that they will keep following a path of representing a moderate Islam that benefits Indonesian society as well as the global Ummah. And with this, I would like to end my talk, and I thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amanda. What a very, very excellent speech talk. We agree, according to Amanda's presentation, the Islamic State Institute of Islamic Higher Education promote peace culture to the world and at the same time has political function. And also from her presentation, we can also infer that it is really important to preserve our own local knowledge and manuscript and to value them as our Islamic identity. And processing knowledge is a very processing power. Thank you very much. And now we moving to the next presenter. Okay, let me introduce the second speaker is Professor Dr. Muhammad Arskal Salim from UIN Syarif Hidayatullah. Selamat datang, Prof.
Ya, selamat datang, selamat pagi.
Terima kasih telah hadir, Prof. It is and let me introduce Prof. Arskal first. He graduated a Doctors of Philosophy in 2006 from University of Melbourne. Jadi Prof ini penyampaian dalam bahasa atau dalam bahasa Inggris, Prof?
Ya, can be both.
Ini dikembalikan kepada can both. Oke, Prof. Prof. Arskal is Kepala Pusat Litbang, Lektur Khazanah Keagamaan dan Manajemen. Beliau juga adalah organisasi Badan Litbang dan Diklat Kementerian Agama, also known as dosen hukum tata negara UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta. Prof. Arskal also very connected to Aceh because pasca tsunami he has research. He is an expert about Islamic pluralisme law in Aceh. Jadi kita tunggu paparan dari Prof. Kami persilahkan waktu kepada Prof. Arskal untuk menyampaikan speech-nya. Kepada Prof. Kami persilahkan.
Oke, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi. Salam sejahtera. Honorable, our host today, honorable, our speakers this morning, Dr. Amanda Tosets, thank you for your talk. I enjoy it. And all audience, whom I cannot mention one by one. Today, I have a paper and I would like to share a screen with you all. So I wonder if the host can allow me to share my screen in order I could present my slides. This topic is very relevant, timely, very relevant, and I really appreciate the initiative of the committee, especially the head of Stein, Dirundeg, and thank you for this invitation. I'm so glad to be here. and share my thought and also my position, Puslitbang lecture, missions and assignments within the Ministry of Religious Affairs. And I'm sure this seminar, this conference is beneficial to all of us, especially because I see that there are other speakers, especially on the second day. There are Professor Oman Fatur Rahman, Dr. Idris Hemai, and Dr. Annabel Tegalap, from UK, British Library. I'm so glad that this conference takes place, even though it is in the late of year. My topic today is TURATS and the construction of knowledge on religious communities and cultures, the role of Puslitbang Lektur Kemenak, Kementerian Agama Republik Indonesia. By way of introduction, I would like to explain some background context. Before then, I go to what is Puslitbang, Pusat Penelitian dan Pengembangan Lektur, Khazanah Keagamaan dan Manajemen Organisasi Kementerian Agama, deals with TURATS, which is the main theme of this conference. The reconstruction of knowledge about religious communities and cultures require us to pay attention to the ways in which that body of knowledge has been produced and reproduced, spread out and disseminated, and finally received or comprehended by a wider audience of religious believers. This is a timely, significant topic for us for two reasons. Firstly, the reconstruction of knowledge is important not only for scholarly or academic purposes, but also for the foundation that the reconstruction of knowledge could engender public and private imagination, interactions, responses, and policies in the culturally plural world that we inhabit. Secondly, the reconstruction of knowledge brought us an awareness that Muslim people or religious communities and cultures are not separately isolated, but rather must be seen alongside other world cultures and societies. And in every period of history, however, knowledge about fundamental aspects of religious communities, in particular Muslim people, has been negotiated in numerous realms. Contemporary works on religious communities and cultures in different disciplines and fields have sought to demystify and reveal the importance of processes of knowledge reconstruction and to highlight the diverse effects of these processes, especially in social, religious, economic, political, and educational realms. The Ministry of Religious Affairs of Indonesia, through its Center for Research and Development, Puslitbang, of Religious Literature and Heritage and Organizational Management, or popularly known as Puslitbang Lektur, had long attempted to pursue that line of research and development agendas. The Puslitbang lectures undertake specifically to examine the ways that knowledge about religious communities and culture
Yep.
The system is closed. Sorry, there is a disconnection. Yeah. I'm really sorry that this disconnection is not so
Okay,
good
Prof.
here. So
Okay, you may
can you
continue,
hear me
Prof.
now?
Yes, you are in. We are hearing you.
Okay.
Yes, very good.
So yeah, the Puslitbang letter undertakes specific examining the ways that knowledge about religious communities and cultures gains authority. It investigates the nature of the assumption and claims that underlie it, and analyzes the context of the production of knowledge. Puslitbang lectures understands that this body of knowledge is instantiated in texts and practices, in traditions, and in other forms that are promoted through numerous mechanisms, including pedagogical practice, artistic and literary production, and social and legal norms. The establishment of Puslitbang lecture under the Ministry of Religious Affairs was partly driven by the fact that Indonesia, as the most populous Muslim country, has to play a key role and to offer an important contribution to the reconstruction that with Muslim but the religions.
Prof, we are unable to hear you. Prof Arskal. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, maybe this the disruption of connection. We'll be waiting him to reconnect again. Audience.
The connection is not stable here.
Yes,
I hope
okay.
it's more stable now. Yeah, I just changed it to another connection.
Okay,
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, of course.
Let me continue. I want to share a screen. So the words lecture and hazana have been used by Puslitbang lecture to refer to religious turas. Turas, or historical legacy, is a source of the reconstruction of knowledge about religious communities and cultures in Indonesia, in which it takes a variety of forms, including religious manuscript, religious sites and rituals, houses of worship, tombs and artifacts, antique coins, palaces and kingdoms, traditions and practice, events and festivals, thoughts and talks, songs and folklores, archives and documentary, etc. So many in Puslitbang lectures. So kullu syai'in, yeah. So for more than 40 years of service, Puslitbang lecture has completed numerous research projects, conducted various development programs, and launched many products for the purpose of the reconstruction of knowledge about religious communities and culture in Indonesia. To mention some of them, there are exploration and conservation of manuscripts, digitization of manuscripts, completion of manuscripts catalog, examination of manuscripts contents, investigation on historical worship places, and writing on religious authorities and leaders, book writing on the sultanates of Nusantara, translation of Quran into ethnic sub-regional languages. Now we have 24 translations of the Quran into ethnic local languages. And last but not least is the preparation of dictionary of religious terms. Currently, in this disruption era, or also known as digital era, Puslitbang Lecture focuses its programs toward strengthening online engagement strategy through a couple of needs. Puslitbang Lecture seeks to provide a central hub for online manuscript repository, online database of religious heritage in various publication forms, and to enrich digital material learning for Islamic education institutions in Indonesia. And I'm glad that Amanda has talked more about Islamic higher education and the way Islamic higher education could be developed and will be enhanced in the future. Most publication products of Puslitbang Lecture remain in the printed form and available at the Library of Balitbang Diklat in the Tamrin office of Kemenak. And it is relevant to note here that National Library of Congress in Washington and some USA universities have been able to compile and preserve almost all published materials of Puslitbang Lecture, which are openly accessible to the public. And of course, Sivitas Academica of Stein di Rondeng are welcome to access our collection in Balitbang Diklat Library. Jadi silakan saja nanti jika ingin mengakses beberapa koleksi yang tersedia di perpustakaan Balitbang Diklat di lantai 2 kantor Kementerian Agama di Jalan Tamrin, silakan untuk kebutuhan penelitian maupun juga untuk kebutuhan lainnya. Dan saya berharap sekali bahwa ke depan Stein Tengku di Rondeng yang juga sangat kuat dalam kajian turosnya, pendekatan filologinya, ini dapat lebih memberikan produk-produk yang tersedia di outlet buku-buku terbitan nasional. Mohon maaf karena tidak bisa berlama-lama, saya harus ke persiapan ke bandara ini karena ada kegiatan luar, jadi saya terima kasih sekali lagi saya ucapkan. So thank you so much Ibu Dr. Inayatillah for this invitation. I'm honored for this opportunity to deliver, and also thank you Amanda. Hope to see you one day when you are in Indonesia doing your research, and I'm sure your research project is relevant and important for Indonesia. Thank you once again, and I should end here. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah, wallahul muwaffiq ila aqwamit thoriq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Prof. Arskal Salim. It is such a great talk from you and from Amanda too. And semoga selamat di perjalanan, Prof. Now it is the time for Q&A. I've been waiting for the question that collected from my co-moderators. We cannot find any question in the Q&A room. Maybe is someone from the audience who may ask. You can unmute your microphone. Ya, mungkin ada yang ingin bertanya, Mas Indonesia. Saya pikir kepada Amanda, karena Prof. Arskal Salim Sudah keluar ya? Jika tidak ada, bisa kita akhiri saja.
I have a question.
Okay.
I may have a question.
Oh, Amanda, you have a question. Okay, please. Should I answer it or what?
No, I would like to ask Pa Arskal, since when is Puslitbang digitizing manuscripts or engaging in this project of knowledge reconstruction? Since when is this going on?
Amanda, so sorry, Prof. Arskal was leaving us.
Oh, okay.
So sorry that he is
Okay.
very busy. So the question is only towards you, Amanda.
It's okay. I will write him an email and ask him personally.
Yes, Amanda. Okay, for our audience, maybe for Miss Masni, do you have any question? There's a question. Oh no, the question is to Prof. Arskal too. How to integrate between modernity and TURAS? Maybe you can help Prof. Arskal, Miss Amanda. There's a question from the audience. She asked that how to integrate between modernity and TURAS.
Yeah, I cannot deliver a very good answer on this, but I think it really depends, as I said in my speech, on the content. What we first have to know, what is really transmitted to us in the manuscripts. We need translations, mostly I think from Javi into Indonesian, into English, and then see how we can approach these manuscripts and their contents and what we can make of them for our contemporary life. I mean, this is exactly as I was telling you in my speech, what happened in Al-Andalus, for instance, with the Greek manuscripts, yeah. It also takes time. This is a question of time. You need to invest a lot of time to translate old manuscripts, to understand what is really meant by different words, by specific terminus. And I think that is then the task of Islamic scholars from maybe Muhammadiyah, from Nahdlatul Ulama, maybe from MUI, and from the academic institutions in Indonesia, from the Islamic higher education system, to find out how we can approach the manuscripts and what we can learn from them for our contemporary life. Yeah. And me as a foreign academic, I would be the one who observes what the Indonesian academics are doing with the manuscripts, but it wouldn't be my task to try to combine TURAS with modernity. And it's an important question, but I think it's also a very difficult question and difficult to find an answer here.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Amanda, thank you for the first question. There's a second question from Tuti Hidayati. She said that, I think you are quite young. What make you interested in studying about TURAS, our manuscript? And here is the third question, so we can collect it all. From Ulfa Khairina, she said that, I want to ask to Amanda, do you think that Islamic manuscript in Southeast Asia might to be a great prospect toward world Islamic academic? And that will be the last question for today conference. Please, Amanda, can you answer?
Yeah, for the first question, I also told you in the beginning of my speech that I'm actually not an expert on Islamic manuscripts. Read a Islamic manuscript.
You please unmute.
Sorry, I'm here now. So the first question was why I am interested in TURATS. As I said in the beginning of my speech, I'm actually not an expert on Islamic manuscripts. I'm basically interested in the politics of Indonesian Islamic education and the Islamic higher education system, and I think that's why I was invited to this conference as a speaker. I just realized that in Indonesia, there's really a trend nowadays to rediscover their own manuscripts, to digitize them, to collect them, to preserve them, and that's what makes it interesting for me, because I am mostly interested like in identity politics, Islamic identity politics, and of course the manuscripts seem to play an important role here because they are the legacies from the past, and it seems that Indonesia is very interested in rediscovering these manuscripts and its Islamic past. So this is an important aspect of my research, but I haven't really gone into depth into the manuscripts. But I'm very interested in what Pa Arskal told us about Puslitbang and how Puslitbang is also engaging in digitizing manuscripts and making them available for the greater public. So I would like to connect with him and learn more about what Puslitbang is doing actually with the manuscripts. So that will be very interesting for my research. And for the second question, I'm not quite sure if I understand the question. Do you think that Islamic manuscripts in Southeast Asia might be a great prospect toward world Islamic academic? Do you mean academia? So, or I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what the question is hinting at, but as I also said in my talk, I think the manuscripts are currently used for exposing Indonesia to the world, to show, to present Indonesia also, to present Indonesian Islamic history to the Islamic world, but also to the Western non-Islamic world. And to show that Indonesia has actually a rich local history of Islam and is not only a passive periphery that consumes other epistemologies and other knowledge from maybe Egypt or even Saudi Arabia, or as I said, so many Muslim academics were sent to Canada, to McGill University or to the University of Chicago to study about Islam. This may take a less relevant role in the future because Indonesia is discovering its own rich Islamic culture and its own rich Islamic knowledge. So the manuscripts are a vehicle to present Indonesia to the world. Yeah, that's what makes them so important.
Thank you very much, Amanda. What a very brief and clear answer for this question. And thank you for the audience who have given the attention and the question among us and toward Amanda. And Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the session. And I think Amanda is going to face the morning, the sunshine, yes. And before we close, let's take some photos before we leave this room. Maybe the hosts are ready, guys, so we can take picture. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Lastly, I would like to thank the speakers, okay, who have allocated some time to be in this conference. And to all audience, please join me to give applause and appreciation to our keynote speakers. Bapak Ibu, I also thank you for your participating in this conference. I hope you enjoy the program, and I look forward to your participation in parallel session today and tomorrow. I hope to see you again in another agenda in the future for the last day. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much. Amanda, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda.
Kalau kat dalam mana? Lingit. Kat dalam mana? The house.
Baik Bapak Ibu semuanya yang masih bersama di dalam ruangan, link absen sudah kami masukkan di chat. Kami ingatkan kembali nanti jam 1:30 kita masih ada sesi paralel dengan berbagai presenter dari seluruh Indonesia dan juga ada dari Australia. Jadi kami berharap semuanya masih bisa bergabung dengan kami mengikuti konferensi hari ini dan juga besok. Kita masih punya beberapa invited speaker yang akan membahas tema-tema yang sangat menarik. Untuk hari ini, untuk sesi plenary dan opening hari ini, Prof. Askal memohon maaf karena beliau memiliki agenda lain dan tidak bisa menjawab pertanyaan-pertanyaan yang diajukan oleh peserta. Kemudian Amanda, memang perbedaan waktunya antara Indonesia cukup jauh dan di sana dini hari, jadi kita ucapkan terima kasih yang sangat banyak sekali, apresiasi yang luar biasa, masih menyempatkan waktu bergabung pada konferensi ini meskipun di sana dini hari, di Prancis ada dini hari. Jadi Bapak Ibu, besok kita masih memiliki presenter dengan tema-tema yang sangat menarik. Silahkan link Zoom-nya boleh di-save yang sudah di-share di chat. Kita ketemu kembali siang ini di paralel dalam room 1, 2, 3, dan 4. Dan tetap untuk plenary besok di room 1. Terima kasih banyak sekali lagi kepada semua peserta. Saya akhiri, billahi taufik wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Enggak, kalau biarkan mereka yang aja siap-siap jadi saya itu dulu. Enggak satu tuh dulu.
Oh ya, kasih itu video aja sambil sini.
Ya, share balik. Bukan. Menurut informasi milik Bapak, drop the
Ingat, jangan dua ya.
Yang selama ini hanya dipandang sebagai dokumentasi sejarah harus sebagai ide yang kemudian ditransformasikan agar senantiasa
menghidupkan kembali nilai-nilai adalah pemikiran reformasi sekaligus mendialogkannya dengan pendekatan yang integratif
tanpa menafikan perkembangan ilmu pengetahuan kontemporer saat ini. Kajian tentang perkembangan lalu tidak dapat
kajian tentang sumber-sumber pengetahuan umat mendapatkan perhatian secara khusus.
Upaya rekonstruksi pengetahuan Islam merupakan sebuah kajian pada konsep metodologi epistemik.
Disrupsi yang terjadi hari ini semakin diperparah dengan situasi pandemi global COVID-19 yang sekaligus
publikasi jurnal internasional dan lahirnya satu paradigma
penyelenggaraan TURATS 2020. Semoga menjadi wadah promosi kampus di level internasional dalam pengkajian TURATS Islam dan menjembatani antara akademisi dan praktisi pendidikan Islam.
sekarang ini merupakan konferensi internasional pertama yang diadakan Sekolah Tinggi Agama Islam Negeri Tengku di Rundeng, Monaco.
Kami dengan bangga mengundang akademisi, peneliti, pembuat kebijakan, profesional, dan pemangku kepentingan lainnya, baik lokal maupun internasional, untuk bergabung di The First di Rundeng International Conference on Islamic Studies TURATS 2020. TURATS 2020.
Maju bersama kita bisa. Sukses!
STAIN Tengku di Rundeng. TURATS yang selama ini hanya dipandang sebagai yang kemudian ditransformasikan agar senantiasa
berparah dengan situasi pandemi global COVID-19 yang sekaligus menjadi cerminan kecil tentang pergeseran nilai
Islam di era disrupsi yang mulai pemangku kepentingan lainnya, baik lokal maupun internasional, untuk bergabung di The